everybody. So today I thought I would take you with me as we work on this tiny little dog drawing. I have loved making these small little portraits or paintings or whatever you want to call them. They're only 2.5 by 3.5 inches. So I guess they're artist trading card size. I had never really heard of an artist trading card before, but I had some people comment that they're artist trading card size. Is that still a thing? If you know what that is it a thing people do? I guess it's where you make these tiny little pieces of artwork and you share them with other people and you trade each other's artwork. I don't really know. I mean, if that is still a thing, I think that's really cute. So, I mean, maybe we should bring it back if it kind of died off. Anyhow, to start off this painting, I'm starting it like a lot of my paintings with some crayons. These are water-soluble crayons. These are from the brand iCrayon. And I have loved playing with these, you guys. What I like is that they actually don't dissolve all that much. And so you can see that I'm going in and adding some swirls. And those will wash out a little bit and they'll add some color to the background, but they'll also still stay there, so you'll be able to see it in the final painting, and I kind of enhance it later on when I go in with some details for the background. I'm going for kind of a contrasting color scheme here with a yellowy orange background and a purple dog, and he's got some magenta too. One of the things I love about doing these small paintings is that you can have so much fun to play around. It doesn't feel really serious and you can keep it simple. I've liked doing these kind of 2 or 3 color schemes because otherwise it gets a little overwhelming and you only have so much space to work with. You can see here I didn't worry about going in and doing a background or making the dog, I was going to say making the dog really realistic, but I never do that anyhow. But I just kept it very straightforward, very simple. I started doing these recently because I thought it would be cool to be able to bring my artwork, like original art pieces, not print, to people of various budget and all of that. Because I know as an artist, we always want art, but we can't always afford art. And so I thought this would be a fun way to make it really affordable and really accessible for other people. And I've kind of quickened up my style for this too, to, make it that much more affordable and not make it so that I'm making only like $1 per painting. But I've decided that I'm not going to shade them. I'm not going in with too much detail. And I'm also not doing the outlining with brush. I'm doing with pen, which is just a lot faster. It's in black, which isn't my favorite, but I think it still looks really good and people seem to like it. I posted a few of them for sale on my Instagram and my TikTok recently, and I got a lot of positive feedback. A lot of people who wanted a custom version, which I also have that information on my Instagram if you are curious. But I got a lot of people who are interested, and that showed me that it really helps to bring a more affordable option to people and that they like that. I was actually kind of inspired by some of those early artists, early as in in the tens or something, but where they were making prints, and the prints became really popular because they were able to recreate artwork and bring it to the masses basically, and bring it to more people rather than just the super wealthy. Now with my paintings, I'm not selling them for boatloads of dollars, but I know that not everybody's going to want to spend $45 for an original piece of art. I don't think I would, so I've started making these as a fun way to not only just exercise and test out little ideas, but and I enjoy making them, but then also to hopefully sell them to other people. And so what I would like to happen is to kind of have these weekly or bi-weekly, or not bi-weekly, like every 2-week releases, and there'd be a new batch for people to choose from. But right now I'm just kind of posting them and selling them as I make them. You can see I've gone in and started painting the dog purple. This is just I think a dioxazine, the purple that has the really long complicated name, and it starts with a D, as well as magenta. And of course I did let the background fully dry beforehand. That's just really important, especially with contrasting colors like this. You want to make sure that it's fully dry. I paused the camera, you just can't tell because I have it all sped up. You may have noticed that when painting the dog, I didn't do any crayons beforehand. And as I've played around with them, I really like the crayons for the background more than I like it for the subject because they have a texture to them, which I really enjoy for the background. I think it actually helps create some contrast between the subject and the background. But when I do especially small things like this, but a lot of my paintings, I just feel like it adds a little bit of busyness that I'm not a fan of. But like I said, I love them for the background. And the first thing you saw me do in this kind of painting is I went around and I traced out a border. And that is my favorite thing to do with these crayons. I know it's really simple, but it just helps me map out where I'm going to be painting and have a little more control. I find that I have a lot more control with like a drawing utensil than I do with a paintbrush. So I've really enjoyed it for that. I am doing just a little bit of the darker purple in the background just to add some depth. Like I said, I'm not going in with shading, but I am trying to, of course, still make it a, dynamic painting to some extent. Now, as you can obviously tell, I have this tutorial sped up because I don't think anybody wants to watch the whole thing, but I only have it on 2 times speed. And so this whole painting, I think tops took me half an hour. Of course, I had to start and stop and let things dry, but when things were drying, I usually just switch it out and start working on another piece. So you can create a bunch of these all throughout the day, honestly. That's actually something I did during this week where I had a market that I was preparing for and I thought I have absolutely nothing to sell at this market, so I'm just going to churn out as many tiny paintings as I can. I looked in my sketchbook and looked for ideas that I thought were cute that I could use, and I spent pretty much all of one day and a good part of a second day just making tons of these. But of course, as luck would have it, we got a huge thunderstorm that day and the market got canceled, which was fine because it was a free market to sell at. And even if it wasn't, I'm sure that the vendors, or not the vendors, the organization that was putting it on would have refunded me. But I don't know, it was just kind of funny to spend so much time working on this stuff that I actually didn't end up being able to sell. So that's why I'm really trying to sell it over my Instagram. Like I said, if you like this piece, if you like my style, that might be something cool for you to check out, but I'm not really gonna keep trying to push it because I feel awkward giving you a commercial like that. One of the great benefits I think to doing these paintings is that even if you don't love where it's going, it feels like you can finish it and just experiment and play. If you don't like the color scheme you chose, it feels so doable just to finish it out. And I think that's a really good thing to do when you're not even just learning how to paint, when you're just a painter, is to push through some of that ugly, push through some of that resistance, and to just keep seeing where it goes. Because like I always tell myself, if you hate it, you just know that you'll never paint it again, basically. But that wasn't the case with this one. I do really like this dog and this color scheme. I think he's really cute, and I ended up calling this dog Socks a dog. It's not very original. So if you have a better name, maybe leave it in the comments and I'll rename it. Well, I'm not saying I've now figured out how to sell my art because I don't think that's true at all. And while I sold a bunch of paintings last week, I'm really not expecting that to be an every week thing. I mean, it'd be awesome if it was, but I don't have that expectation that I just now have it figured out. However, I do think I figured something out, and it might help you too if you're struggling to sell your art. And that's just to make a more affordable option, which I think is really hard because art supplies is expensive and art takes time. And I'm by no means saying that you should undersell your art or, only use cheap things to try and mend that. Now, granted, I think with affordable art supplies, you can do so much. I mean, I don't use super expensive stuff. I mean, my paper I get on Amazon for fairly cheap, and my paints are student grade, but they're Winsor and Newton, so they're still good, but it wasn't anything like a Daniel Smith or one of those really legacy type of brands. Maybe not legacy, but one of those really bougie brands. How about we say that? So if you can find a way to make little pieces or prints or things that aren't going to cost you a whole bunch of materials and a whole bunch of time, because I think what you'll find is that there's a bunch of people who love what you make. They want to support you, because I find that so many people, especially like in my generation, in the like 20s ish, people really value like the time it takes for other people to make art. And they want to support you, but of course, everybody has a budget. And when you have to worry about like rent and food, art isn't really going to come before those things. And so if you can kind of brainstorm what you can make, I think that that's really helpful to at least getting your foot in the door for selling art. It's like selling the cookies instead of the cakes, right? Like I used to work at a bakery, and that's what my boss would say is like, you have to sell the cookies, which are like a couple dollars each, in order to get the birthday cake and the wedding cake customers who are going to be able to afford a few $100s on a cake. So just something to keep in mind if you find yourself struggling, because I can tell you what, I have been in this game for several years now, and this was the best week I've had with selling my art. So by no means do I have it figured out. I just thought that might be a little helpful tip, and it might get your gears turning on how you can bring more of your art to people. So bringing it back to the painting, you can see I ended up painting over those original swirls I did and making them polka dots. I really like where this kind of evolved to with the polka dots and then adding the swirls in the center. I don't know that it would have gotten there if I didn't do the swirls in the crayon first. And you can't really see on the video, but in real life you can kind of see that trace of the crayon still. So it just kind of adds another layer. Now I'm just going in with my Micron 02 and the color black. I used to be a Micron hater up until I found this specific pen, but I really enjoy the point 2. I think it fits just what I need it to really well. I know you're really not supposed to use it on rough watercolor paper like this, but honestly, they're like $2 each, and I feel like I'm getting lots of use. It doesn't look super worn down. You will see me struggling a little bit, and that is one of the things with the crayons to keep in mind, is that pens, not even just these microns, but especially smaller fine point pens, don't love the wax. And so I try and keep it kind of away from the dog, but of course it gets in the way, and I know my hand is in the way, but I am struggling at certain points of this painting. And what you can't see is that I have a piece of paper off camera that once I notice it's skipping or any of the ink isn't coming out, I just kind of scribble it on that paper and it wipes off the extra wax and my pen comes back. And like I said, this might not be the best supplies practice, but I haven't had a huge issue yet, and I've done so many paintings like this over the last month or two. So maybe not month or two, but several weeks for sure. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. But I love this pen, and I'm really happy to have found it, not only just for my sketchbook, but for doing these little paintings. I find that it's the perfect width for having control and getting detail, while also not being so thin that you can barely see it. Let me know what you think, though, of this black outline. I'm not really one to use a lot of black art supplies, so you'll have to tell me if you think it would look better if I used maybe a brown or a colored micron. That might be something fun to play around with in future. Oh, of course, you have to add the nose shine. I mean, I can't finish a drawing without doing that. But this is basically the finished piece. Oh, one more thing I tried to do was add these little like excitement marks, but my pen was not going to do that over the waxy background, so I had to go in with my paintbrush. But now you can kind of see the finished piece here, and I'm bringing it into some natural light so you can get a better idea. But let me know what you think, and until next time, thank you so much for watching this video. Bye bye.